Hey, what's up everyone? I had a request at a previous video. Someone asked me, they said I've never ever shared the accomplishments of the previous president. Yes, I have. I've shared it, but the algorithms don't let the accomplishments be viewed. They will not let it be seen. Apparently, no one can find the videos about Mr. T, I'll call him, on my channel. No one. They searched and they can't find the accomplishments, and they searched and they cannot find what I had to say about him. So it's almost as if I never talked about him, and I did. So, a couple of people have asked me, could I list his accomplishments? If I don't get flagged or banned or get the video removed or somehow or other for misinformation, then here it is. Even when it was in the last of his term, he signed an anti-human trafficking bill to protect the innocent. And all they could say was, but this bill is going to cut down on, I'll just say camming. This bill is going to cut down on human trafficking that is legal, or that is, it's going to, because prostitution is legal in many places now, and because of online camming of these girls and women, it's going to cut down on their freedoms and their rights to, and no, he said, Mr. T said that had nothing to do with that. So the politicians were trying to go against it, saying that the bill he signed against human trafficking would keep girls and women from being able to make videos or live stream and make money online with their body. And he said that had nothing to do with that, unless you were harming children. And if you're doing that, then you need to be held accountable anyway. So, in January, right at the beginning of 2020, he signed a bill against human trafficking. He approved the largest Department of Justice grant package in history to combat human trafficking. And guess what? Immediately, hundreds of people were saved and found immediately. And tens of traffickers were found that very day. From Michigan and some other surrounding states, the Department of Justice went in and the Department of Justice had the FBI investigate, and other groups, the SWAT teams went in and they saved a bunch of lives. They opened 2,500 new cases that they found. That's 2,500 less people being trafficked there. Not only he was after El Chapo and stopped a lot of his reign of power, but he also used the guy to get a lot of the major traffickers and had the FBI investigate into him and use the information he got from the Department of Justice on El Chapo and used that information that he received against a lot of traffickers. He called them President of Mexico and threatened and said, take care of bad hombres, and hung up the phone. And the President of Mexico calls him back and says, you know what? You got guts. I like you. He said, well, we have bad hombres over here because tens and tens of our people went missing when they went on vacation in Mexico. So he calls the President of Mexico up and says, what's going on? Our people of the United States are being injured and killed, never seen again. And they said, well, we have bad hombres. And he said, take care of bad hombres. Click, hangs up the phone. Mexican president calls him back and says, I like you, man. We're going to take care of business. And it lowered drastically. Islamic State was running rampant. ISIS was running rampant during the previous administration, before him. Then he said, what are we going to do? We're going to bomb the out of them. And he kept Russia threatened. He kept Putin threatened. And Putin said, I like your guts. I like you have guts. Then he talks to Putin, talks to him. They have a conversation. And he keeps him in line. Says if they try to mess with us, I'll nuke you. He said basically, as far as Islamic State in Syria, he said, I'll bomb the ish out of them and then I'll send Exxon in to rebuild. And they called it a slur, saying, oh, that's torture and war. The cat said, I know. She said, I know. It was stated that this guy right here, Soleimani, seemed like an ordinary man, seemed like a normal leader. But it was stated his White House members, the Pentagon staff members, told him they have intel that says this guy is planning several more attacks across Europe, one of which included France, another of our allies, and two or so, I think around two, in the United States. One was in a major New York area. What did he do? He had a drone strike from our military strike Qasem Soleimani. Just right there, as he was heading to plan more. And the news people said, you just can't do that. That's bad. That's wrong. Really? So you can't bomb a terrorist leader. He had a meeting between the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, the U.S. Taliban agreements. They were paving the way for negotiations on a political settlement and a permanent and comprehensive ceasefire. This was on state.gov. I'm going to download this. I can show you. He had a written plan, a joint declaration between the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan and the United States of America for bringing peace to Afghanistan. He told the Islamic State, forget you, I'll blow you all to smithereens. He went in with the Taliban at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 in the morning, talking to them, having dinner, gave them dinner, the food they'd never had before, and was like, they said, man, this is nice. And he said, I'm negotiating only if you agree to never, ever wage war or fight against us or our allies. He said, if you do one move against this, it's over. And they were appalled by his gall, his guts. He went in there and he said, in the building at night, he said, no. He said, he had an unscheduled meeting with the Taliban at 3:30 in the morning. No one appreciates this. I remember seeing it. He had a private. Well, I saw that he had it over there in the plane, and in the Air Force One, and he went in and talked with the Taliban. Ceasefires began. 3 or 4 different peace treaties began in the Middle East, allowing Israel and bordering nations to trade with each other once again and gain closer ties to one another and create a more sustainable international relationship with Israel and surrounding Islamic nations. By signing the Abraham Accord, he officialized it, that the Abrahamic nations would begin to broker ties with one another. With his son-in-law Jared Kushner, Mike Pompeo, and the president himself, they all worked together to try to bring these ties together to strengthen Middle Eastern nations and their alliance with Israel and the United States. He told the Taliban, you try to mess with us again like you've done in the past, and you're done for. But this is the bill that was being signed, the joint declaration right after that, with the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, ready to bring our troops out slowly, over a matter of years if needed. But he left the bill open where there was fine print writing, basically, so to speak, where if anything were to happen, we can send our troops back immediately if you go against this treaty. But he had a treaty to bring peace to Afghanistan. No one else has achieved that, and he was on tack to do it, on track. All right, next thing. Iran was threatening us, our soldiers, our allies, and the United States to blow us up. So then Trump tweets to them and says, July 22nd, 2018, to Iranian President Rouhani, never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious. Right after that, they tweeted out their flag saying, "Peace. Fine." And then Russia said, "That's a nice play." Then we tweeted our flag to them and ended a possible war through Twitter, which a president's never done. He did a UN speech and said he threatened to totally destroy North Korea if they ever try to harm anyone. He threatened North Korea with fire and fury, the likes of which this world has never seen, he said. And then Kim Jong-un said, "I like this guy." Believe it or not, asked him to come over there and broker peace between North and South Korea. And they actually, for the first time ever, let the South Korean president go over to North Korea, over the border. President Trump shook their hands and was trying to broker a peace negotiation. At the same time, India was finally regaining ties with surrounding nations. India had opened up its borders. China, in some places, he told the leader he told the leader of the dragon country, he said, "Listen here, you blanking blankers. You mess with us, we're going to tax you, and we're going to tax you big time." He said, "You listen here, you mother blankers. We're going to tax you." He said, "People don't listen to you. You got to talk like a boss." He said, "If you want things done, you have to talk tough and mean what you say and back it up." And that's what he told China. And then they relieved our debt from years ago. He said, "We buy everything from you. Every electronic device we're using to stream this right now," a speech he was doing, he said, was bought and paid to those individuals, to that country, the country of China. And he told them, he said, and then he started putting tariffs on them to the point where their country was like getting in big trouble. And they finally were giving in to his demands because he was tough and stuck to it. And he said, "We have bigger weapons. We have more oomph." He told them, "We have weapons at Mount Rushmore. We have weapons. We have weapons across this country you don't know about, waiting to deploy if anyone tries anything." And he told the leader of the dragon that there's no reason for us to owe you all that money when we pay and buy all those electronics. So they relieved some of our past debt just instantly. Now, I will say the previous president did do that once before, but that was because we were buying so much from them. Usually it's because they're 2 and 2. They're like right up in each other. Let's see, how do I put this? They're usually like tit for tat, or I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. They've got something over us, basically. But yeah, that's what he did. Then he threatened to completely, totally destroy North Korea if they ever mess with anyone. And that was live during a UN speech. No one appreciated it. Back in April of 2018, around 3 o'clock in the morning, he struck Syria. But let me tell you, this is why. Obama had told Syria's Assad, "I'm drawing a red line and you better not cross it." And the Pope said, "Don't bomb Damascus." And he's like, he became chicken. So basically, he said, "I'm drawing a red line. If you hurt your people again, I'm coming at you." Obama never did anything. Nothing. Mr. T, President Trump drew that red line. He said, "You harm the innocent children, women and children again, and I will, if you harm innocent civilians, I will attack you. And you'll have no more chemical weapons to use." And he said, "Just try me." He bombed people, and Trump got on TV and said that was a horrible crime, and some channels would not even air his speech. He called him a monster and a butcher, and the news people said, "How can you say that about a world leader? That's awful, calling him a monster and a butcher." And then he did another attack. And when he drew a red line, he meant it. So, in the middle of the night, it was announced, we struck Syria. And they said, "Oh no, a war's begun. No, a war was avoided because Trump had his generals and our army drones he had our drones perform a drone strike on the 3 chemical weapons warehouse facilities in Syria. Blew them to smithereens, and there was nothing left. And the only thing our news media tried to say was he blew up a hospital. Then they found out that was false. He blew up targeted the 3 chemical weapons warehouse facilities in the middle of the night. He had our military do it. Hats off to the military. And then you never heard any more chemical weapons being used on the innocent people and civilians in Syria. Because when he drew a red line, he meant it. And they tried to call him a monster. And then Putin said, well played. Putin said, you better not hit any of my facilities and bases in Syria. What did he do? He went about it and hit just the right places, and it turns out to be the chemical weapons facilities. And they really were making chemical weapons in Syria. He destroyed the 3 warehouse facilities. And Putin said, well played. And as I stated before, he actually crossed the border of North Korea and was signing a bill with Kim Jong-un. Said, if you go against this bill, it's done. Our relationship is finished. But he was brokering a peace treaty between North and South Korea. They were even beginning to have one Korea started. They had that planned. And they were brokering a deal. The Abraham Accords were signed by President Trump and First Lady. The Abraham Accords normalized relations between the State of Israel and the United Arab Emirates and other surrounding Islamic and Muslim nations. They encouraged the efforts to promote interfaith and intercultural dialogue to advance a culture of peace among the 3 Abrahamic religions and all of humanity. It was beginning to create a peace treaty, an actual peace treaty, amongst Jews, Christians, and Muslims, or Islamic people. And all of humanity, for that matter. And then you've seen other nations starting to sign peace treaties with each other at that time. He signed an energy independence policy. When he was in office, we became a net oil exporter for the first time in 75 years, no longer being dependent on foreign oil and foreign energy. We became energy independent during the end of his presidency. I want you to look at this article from 2019 and early 2020. The outlook was much better for consumers at the fuel pump, where gas dipped to less than $2 in some locations. Even $1.86, I remember. Some places in Michigan were below $1. And it was less than $2.25 in thousands of other spots. Energy Analysis said November 2019, gas prices were below $2. Gas prices below $2. Remember that? Remember? And then gas prices were, see right there, $1.88. Under the previous president, gas was $1.49, below $2. Now, this is what we're looking at in several places across the country. Oh, and look what it said, Trump versus Biden. No matter who wins the U.S. election in 2020, there will still be a crisis. Really? That was the gas price before the election. This was an image out of Michigan. This is now. And this was during President Trump. This was in Michigan. Look at those prices. That's just one of many accomplishments. All right, these are just a few accomplishments I wanted to share. Thank you for watching. That's all for now. Links below. Signing out.